Good morning, everyone. Picture this, a crisp autumn morning in Carmel, California, a town so picturesque it feels like stepping into a postcard. The air is cool, with just enough bite to remind you that summer has officially waved goodbye. Golden sunlight filters through the towering redwoods lining Scenic Road, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets. It's quiet, almost serene, except for the occasional chirp of birds or the distant hum of luxury cars cruising down Ocean Avenue. Stephanie Carter sits behind her sleek mahogany desk at Carter & Bell Real Estate. Her office is a blend of modern elegance and understated sophistication. Think minimalist furniture, soft gray walls, and large windows overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Outside, waves crash rhythmically against jagged cliffs, their frothy crests catching the warm daylight of early morning. Stephanie glances up from her tablet, her sharp green eyes scanning the room. She's dressed impeccably today, a tailored navy blazer over a cream silk blouse, paired with black slacks and low heels. Her blonde hair is styled in loose waves, framing her face perfectly. She's on top of her game, as always. At 42, Stephanie has become synonymous with success in Carmel's ultra-competitive real estate market. Tech moguls, celebrities, billionaires, they all come to her when they want the best. And she delivers, every single time. But there's something about today that feels different. A subtle shift in the atmosphere, maybe. Or perhaps it's just the faint scent of saltwater drifting through the open window. The door chimes softly, pulling her attention away from her screen. In walks a man who couldn't look more out of place if he tried. He's in his late 60s, maybe early 70s, wearing a weathered leather jacket that's seen better days. His faded jeans are slightly frayed at the cuffs, and his scuffed boots tell stories of miles traveled. His face is lined with experience, each wrinkle etched deeply like the rings of an ancient tree. There's a quiet confidence in the way he carries himself, but nothing flashy, no Rolex watch, no designer sunglasses perched on his head. Just an unassuming presence that seems oddly out of sync with the opulence surrounding him. Stephanie raises an eyebrow, her lips curving into a polite yet distant smile. "Welcome to Carter & Bell Real Estate," she says, her voice smooth but tinged with a hint of skepticism. "How can I help you today?" The man nods once, his expression calm and steady. "I'd like to see the listing on Scenic Road," he replies, his tone measured, almost deliberate. For a split second, Stephanie freezes. The Scenic Road property? That $15 million oceanfront mansion with floor-to-ceiling windows, infinity pool, and panoramic views of the coastline? This guy doesn't even look like he belongs in the same zip code as that house. "That property is quite exclusive," she says, leaning back in her chair, her tone laced with subtle condescension. "Perhaps I could show you something more practical." The man doesn't flinch. Doesn't blink. He simply studies her for a moment, then nods again. "I see. What do you have in that price range?" Stephanie's irritation begins to simmer beneath her polished exterior. She quickly pulls up a few modest listings on her tablet, pointing them out with brisk efficiency. "We have some smaller homes, still luxurious but more manageable." The man takes another moment to study her, his gaze piercing yet unreadable. Then, without another word, he turns and walks out. The door closes behind him with a soft click. Stephanie exhales sharply, rolling her eyes. Just another dreamer, she thinks dismissively. Little does she know, her world is about to change forever. Stephanie leans back in her chair, letting out a low sigh as the door clicks shut behind the man. She shakes her head slightly, muttering under her breath. Another one bites the dust. Her fingers hover over her tablet, scrolling absent-mindedly through listings she knows he'll never call about. In her mind, the encounter is already fading, just another blip in her otherwise flawless day. But then, chaos erupts. The office door bursts open with such force that it slams against the wall. Henry Bell, the broker in charge, storms in like a hurricane. His face is pale, his usually composed demeanor shattered. Sweat beads on his forehead, and his tie is askew, as if he's been running or panicking for blocks. "Where is he?" Henry demands, his voice tight with urgency. "The man who just left. Where did he go?" Stephanie frowns, caught off guard. "Who?" "The guy in the leather jacket." She gestures vaguely toward the door. "He left." "Why?" Henry stares at her, his eyes wide with disbelief, and something else. Fear? Anger? It's hard to tell. He runs a hand through his thinning gray hair, exhaling sharply. "Stephanie," he says, his tone dropping to a near whisper, "do you have any idea who that was?" That was Clint Eastwood. The words hit her like a freight train. Clint Eastwood. Stephanie's stomach drops, her heart pounding so loudly she swears Henry can hear it. Clint Eastwood, the Hollywood legend, former mayor of Carmel, and one of the wealthiest men in town. The same Clint Eastwood whose name carries weight far beyond his iconic films. Her mind races back to the man in the weathered leather jacket. His quiet confidence. His calm, steady gaze. How could she have missed it? "Oh my God," she whispers, her voice trembling. "I didn't know." Henry cuts her off, his frustration boiling over. "You dismissed him. One of the most influential men in this town, and you treated him like some nobody." Stephanie feels the blood drain from her face. She had judged him based on his appearance, assuming he couldn't afford the scenic road property. And now, she's paying the price for her arrogance. Henry paces the room, his hands clenched into fists. "Do you realize what this means? Do you understand how much business we've just lost?" He doesn't forget things like this, Stephanie. Not someone like him. The weight of Henry's words crushes her. This isn't just about losing a client, it's about damaging her reputation. Her carefully cultivated image as the go-to real estate agent for Carmel's elite is suddenly teetering on the edge of collapse. "I need to fix this," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "You'd better," Henry snaps, his tone sharp enough to cut glass. "Because if you don't, I'm not sure there's a future for you here." With that, he turns and storms out of the office, leaving Stephanie alone with her thoughts. She sits there for a moment, frozen, her mind replaying every second of the encounter. The way she'd looked at him with thinly veiled disdain. The dismissive tone she'd used when suggesting more practical options. The condescension dripping from her words. How could she have been so blind? Determined to make things right, Stephanie grabs her coat, a sleek black trench, and rushes out of the office. The streets of Carmel are alive with activity now, tourists strolling along Ocean Avenue, boutique owners arranging displays in their shop windows. But Stephanie doesn't notice any of it. Her focus is razor-sharp, her pulse racing as she scans the area for any sign of Clint Eastwood. She spots his black SUV parked outside a small cafe a few blocks away. Relief washes over her, but it's short-lived. What will she say? How can she possibly undo the damage she's done? Taking a deep breath, she approaches the cafe, her nerves stretched taut like piano strings. Through the window, she sees him sitting at a table, sipping coffee. He looks calm, almost serene, his rugged features softened by the warm glow of sunlight streaming through the glass. Stephanie hesitates for a moment, steeling herself. Then, she pushes open the door and steps inside. The bell above the cafe door jingles softly as Stephanie steps inside, her presence immediately noticeable in the cozy space. The air is warm and inviting, filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and buttery pastries. Sunlight pours through the large windows, creating golden streaks across the wooden floors and patterned tiles beneath her feet. It's a harmonious scene, almost romantic, but Stephanie doesn't feel any of that charm right now. Her heart pounds like a drum in her chest, each beat echoing louder than the chatter around her. Clint Eastwood sits at a corner table near the window, his silhouette framed by the bright light streaming in. He looks every bit the unassuming stranger she met earlier, but now, knowing who he truly is, Stephanie sees him differently. There's an aura about him, a quiet strength, a confidence that doesn't need to shout for attention. His weathered leather jacket rests on the back of his chair, and his faded jeans are paired with those same scuffed boots. On the table before him sits a simple white ceramic mug half filled with dark coffee, steam curling lazily upward. Stephanie takes a deep breath, steadying herself. She knows this moment could make or break her career. Every step toward his table feels heavier than the last, her black trench coat swaying slightly with her movements. Her polished heels click against the floor, drawing a few curious glances from other patrons, but she keeps her focus laser-sharp. When she reaches the table, Clint looks up, his piercing blue eyes meeting hers without judgment, just calm observation. For a split second, Stephanie wonders if he already knows why she's here. "Mr. Eastwood," she begins, her voice trembling ever so slightly despite her best efforts to sound composed. "I owe you an apology." She pauses, searching his face for some sign of reaction, but his expression remains unreadable. Encouraged, or perhaps unnerved, by his silence, she continues. I was rude, dismissive, and I didn't give you the respect you deserve. That was wrong of me, and I deeply regret it." Her words hang in the air between them, heavy with sincerity. Outside, the breeze rustles the leaves of nearby trees, their shadows dancing across the cafe windows. Inside, the hum of conversation fades into the background as Stephanie waits for Clint's response. For a long moment, he simply studies her, his gaze steady and unwavering. Then, finally, he speaks. "You're right," he says, his voice calm but firm. "You did make a mistake." Stephanie's stomach sinks. She had hoped for forgiveness, maybe even a chance to redeem herself, but his tone leaves little room for optimism. Still, she presses on. "I understand if you've already made your decision," she says quietly, her voice tinged with desperation. "But if you could give me another chance, I'll prove that I've learned from my mistake." Clint leans back in his chair, considering her words. His fingers tap lightly against the handle of his coffee mug, the rhythmic motion adding tension to the moment. Finally, he nods slowly. "You're on the right path, Miss Carter," he says. "Just don't forget the lesson you've learned." His words are neither forgiving nor condemning. They're measured, deliberate, and laced with wisdom. Stephanie nods quickly, relief washing over her features. "Thank you, Mr. Eastwood. You won't regret giving me another chance." With that, she turns and walks out of the cafe, her mind racing. She may not have secured him as a client yet, but she's been given a lifeline, and she's determined not to waste it. Stephanie steps out of the cafe, the cool autumn air brushing against her cheeks like a gentle reminder of reality. Her mind is a whirlwind, relief, shame, determination, all swirling together in a chaotic dance. She pulls her trench coat tighter around herself, not because she's cold, but because it gives her a sense of control, however fleeting. She replays Clint's words in her head. "You're on the right path, Miss Carter. Just don't forget the lesson you've learned." It wasn't forgiveness, not exactly. But it was something, a chance to prove herself, to show that she's more than the polished facade she's built over the years. As she walks back toward the office, the streets of Carmel seem different somehow. The cobblestone paths, the redwood-lined avenues, the salty breeze from the ocean, they all feel sharper, more vivid. It's as if the encounter with Clint has peeled back a layer of complacency she didn't even realize she'd been carrying. When she returns to her desk, Henry Bell is waiting for her, his arms crossed and his expression unreadable. "Well," he asks, his tone clipped. "He gave me another chance," Stephanie replies, her voice steady despite the knot of anxiety still lodged in her chest. "But I need to earn it." Henry exhales sharply, his shoulders relaxing slightly. "Good. Don't screw this up, Stephanie. This isn't just about one client, it's about your reputation. People talk in this town." She nods, understanding the gravity of the situation. Carmel isn't just any town, it's a tight-knit community where word travels fast, especially when it involves someone like Clint Eastwood. Over the next few days, Stephanie throws herself into preparing for Clint's return. She studies the scenic road property inside and out, memorizing every detail, from the marble countertops in the kitchen to the infinity pool overlooking the ocean. She researches Clint's past real estate ventures, learning what he values in a home. And most importantly, she reflects on her own behavior, vowing to approach every client with the same level of respect and attentiveness, regardless of their appearance or background. Stephanie spends the next week in a whirlwind of preparation, her days blending into nights as she immerses herself in every detail of the scenic road property, and more importantly, in rethinking her approach to her work. It's not just about Clint Eastwood anymore, it's about proving, to herself and everyone else, that she can be better. She starts small, almost imperceptibly. Instead of breezing through client meetings with her usual polished efficiency, she slows down. She listens, not just to what they say, but to what they mean. She notices the subtle cues, the way someone's eyes light up when they talk about their dream kitchen, or how their voice softens when describing a cozy reading nook by the window. These moments, once overlooked in her pursuit of closing deals, now feel like treasures waiting to be uncovered. Her colleagues begin to notice the change too. Where once Stephanie had been all business, sharp and unyielding, she now greets clients with genuine warmth. Her smile isn't just polite, it's sincere. And while some might dismiss it as a fleeting phase, those who know her best see something deeper at play. One afternoon, as she sits at her desk reviewing notes for an upcoming showing, Henry Bell stops by her office. He leans against the doorframe, his arms crossed, watching her with a mix of curiosity and approval. "You've changed," he says simply, his tone less accusatory than observational. Stephanie looks up, startled. "Changed?" Henry nods, stepping inside and pulling up a chair. "Yeah. You're softer, I guess. More patient. It's good." For a moment, Stephanie doesn't know how to respond. She spent so much of her career building walls, protecting herself from vulnerability, from failure, that hearing someone acknowledge her shift feels strange, almost foreign. "I guess I realized something," she says finally, her voice thoughtful. "Success isn't just about numbers or prestige. It's about making a difference. Helping people find homes that truly fit them, not just selling properties." Henry raises an eyebrow, clearly impressed. "Well, keep it up. Because word's getting around. People are noticing." And he's right. Over the next few weeks, Stephanie's reputation begins to shift, not because of flashy marketing or high-profile listings, but because of the care and attention she brings to each interaction. Clients leave her office feeling heard, valued, and respected. Some even send thank-you notes, a rarity in the cutthroat world of luxury real estate. But despite these changes, there's still one thing missing: closure with Clint Eastwood. Though he hasn't outright rejected her, he also hasn't called to schedule another meeting. Each day that passes without hearing from him feels like a weight pressing down on her chest. Weeks pass, and Stephanie's transformation isn't just internal, it starts to ripple outward, touching every aspect of her life. Her mornings begin differently now. Instead of rushing into the office with a coffee to go and a checklist of tasks, she takes her time. She sits by the window in her Carmel cottage, sipping tea as the sun rises over the ocean. The salty breeze drifts through the open windows, carrying with it the faint scent of eucalyptus trees. It's peaceful grounding, a reminder that success doesn't always have to come at the expense of balance. At work, her colleagues notice the shift immediately. Gone is the sharp-edged agent who breezed through meetings with an air of superiority. In her place stands someone more approachable, more human. When clients walk into the office, they're greeted not with a rehearsed smile but with genuine warmth. Stephanie listens intently, asking thoughtful questions and offering solutions tailored to their needs. Take Mrs. Langley, for example, a retired artist looking for a cozy studio apartment near the beach. Most agents would have dismissed her outright. After all, she wasn't exactly rolling in millions. But Stephanie saw something else in her, a spark of creativity, a love for simplicity and beauty. Together, they found a charming little flat tucked away on a quiet street, its walls adorned with ivy and its windows overlooking the ocean. When Mrs. Langley signed the papers, tears glistened in her eyes. "This feels like home," she whispered, clutching Stephanie's hand. Moments like these remind Stephanie why she got into real estate in the first place. Not for the prestige or the paycheck, but to help people find places where they can build lives, create memories, and feel safe. But it's not just about smaller deals or overlooked clients. Even when working with high-profile buyers, Stephanie approaches each interaction with newfound humility. She no longer assumes she knows what someone wants based on their appearance or reputation. Instead, she asks questions, listens carefully, and tailors her recommendations accordingly. One day, a tech billionaire walks into the office, his entourage trailing behind him. Dressed in a crisp suit and designer shoes, he exudes wealth and power. Most agents would have fawned over him, eager to close a multi-million-dollar deal. But Stephanie treats him the same way she treats everyone else, with respect, patience, and authenticity. They spend hours discussing his vision for a family retreat, a place where his kids can play freely, far from the pressures of Silicon Valley. By the end of the meeting, he shakes her hand firmly, saying, "You're different from the others." "I appreciate that." Word spreads quickly in Carmel, a town where gossip travels faster than the coastal fog. Clients begin requesting her specifically, praising her professionalism and dedication. Even competitors start taking notice. Tom Hastings, the managing director of Hastings & Company, stops by the office one afternoon, his curiosity piqued. "I've heard things," he says, leaning casually against the reception desk. His tone is casual, but there's a glimmer of respect in his eyes. Stephanie raises an eyebrow, intrigued. "Good things, I hope." Tom chuckles, nodding. "Yeah, actually. People are saying you've changed, for the better. Keep it up." His words linger with her long after he leaves. For years, Stephanie had defined success by external markers: the size of her commissions, the exclusivity of her listings, the envy of her peers. Now she realizes those metrics were hollow without the foundation of integrity and empathy. Still, there's one unresolved thread hanging over her: the Clint Eastwood situation. Despite her efforts to reach out, he hasn't scheduled another meeting. Each unanswered email and unreturned call feels like a silent rebuke, a reminder of the mistake she made. One evening, as she sits alone in her office, the golden hour light casting long shadows across her desk, Stephanie allows herself to reflect. She thinks about the man in the weathered leather jacket, his calm demeanor masking decades of experience and wisdom. What must he think of her now? Has she ruined any chance of redemption? And yet, amidst the uncertainty, there's clarity too. This journey, this humbling, painful, transformative process, has taught her something invaluable. Success isn't about perfection, it's about growth. It's about learning from your mistakes and becoming someone better because of them. With renewed resolve, Stephanie picks up her phone and dials Clint's number one more time. The phone rings twice before it's answered, and Stephanie's heart skips a beat when Clint Eastwood's calm, steady voice comes through the line. "Miss Carter," he says, his tone neutral but not unfriendly. "Mr. Eastwood," she replies, her voice steady despite the nervous flutter in her chest. "I wanted to follow up regarding the scenic road property. I've prepared some additional materials that might interest you, and I'd love the opportunity to show you the house again, properly this time." There's a pause on the other end of the line, long enough to make Stephanie wonder if she's overstepped. But then Clint speaks, his words measured. "I appreciate your persistence, Miss Carter. Let's say, tomorrow morning? 10 o'clock. Stephanie exhales softly, relief washing over her. 10 o'clock works perfectly. Thank you for giving me another chance. When she hangs up, she feels a mix of emotions: gratitude, excitement, and a lingering sense of caution. This isn't just another showing, it's a test. A chance to prove that she's learned from her mistakes and can deliver the level of service someone like Clint deserves. The next morning dawns crisp and clear, the kind of day that makes Carmel feel like a postcard come to life. The sky is a brilliant shade of blue, dotted with wispy clouds, and the air carries the faint scent of saltwater and pine. Stephanie arrives at the scenic road property early, ensuring every detail is perfect. She walks through the house methodically, checking the placement of fresh flowers on the marble countertops, adjusting the blinds to let in just the right amount of light, and making sure the infinity pool sparkles under the morning sun. When Clint arrives precisely at 10, Stephanie greets him with a warm smile, her posture confident yet respectful. He steps out of his black SUV wearing the same weathered leather jacket, faded jeans, and scuffed boots as before. His expression is unreadable, but there's a subtle softness in his gaze, a sign perhaps that he's willing to give her a fair shot. "Good morning, Mr. Eastwood," she says, extending her hand. "Thank you for coming." Clint nods, shaking her hand firmly. "Let's see what you've got." As they tour the property, Stephanie focuses on delivering an experience rather than a sales pitch. She highlights the architectural details, the vaulted ceilings, the imported Italian tiles, the panoramic views, but she also emphasizes how the space could fit into Clint's lifestyle. "This living room would be perfect for hosting intimate gatherings," she says, gesturing toward the expansive seating area. "And the kitchen is designed for someone who appreciates functionality without sacrificing elegance." Clint listens intently, nodding occasionally but offering little feedback. When they reach the master suite, with its private balcony overlooking the ocean, Stephanie pauses, letting the moment speak for itself. "You strike me as someone who values privacy and tranquility," she says softly. "This space offers both." For the first time, Clint's lips curve into a faint smile. "You're observant, Miss Carter. That's good." By the end of the tour, Stephanie feels cautiously optimistic. Clint hasn't made any promises, but his demeanor has shifted slightly, less guarded, more engaged. As they stand by the infinity pool, watching the waves crash against the cliffs below, he turns to her. "You've done your homework," he says, his tone approving. "I'll think it over." It's not a yes, but it's not a no either. For Stephanie, that's enough, for now. The days following Clint Eastwood's visit to the scenic road property pass in a blur of anticipation and self-doubt for Stephanie. She replays every moment of the tour in her mind, dissecting her words, her tone, her body language. Did she say too much? Too little? Was she overly eager or not enthusiastic enough? But while she waits for Clint's decision, life, and business, doesn't stop. One afternoon, as she's preparing for a meeting with a new client, Tom Hastings walks into her office unannounced. He's dressed impeccably, as always, in a charcoal gray suit that fits him like a glove. His tie is perfectly knotted, his shoes polished to a mirror shine. There's an air of confidence about him, but also something else, something sharper, more calculating. "Stephanie," he says, his voice smooth but edged with rivalry. "I heard Clint Eastwood toured the scenic road property with you." She looks up from her desk, surprised. Word travels fast around here. Tom chuckles, though there's no humor in it. "In Carmel? Faster than you'd think. So how did it go?" Stephanie hesitates, unsure how much to reveal. "It went well, I think. He said he'd think it over." Tom nods slowly, his expression unreadable. "Good. Because if you mess this up," he lets the sentence hang, the implication clear. Stephanie feels a flicker of irritation, but keeps her composure. "I'm aware of what's at stake, Tom. Thanks for the concern." He smirks, leaning casually against the doorframe. "Just looking out for the town's best interests. You know how much Clint means to Carmel." As he turns to leave, Stephanie can't shake the feeling that Tom isn't just here to check on her progress. There's something predatory about his visit, a subtle reminder that he's watching, waiting for her to slip up so he can swoop in and take over. Later that week, Stephanie gets a call from one of her colleagues. "You won't believe this," the colleague says, her voice tinged with disbelief. "Tom Hastings showed Clint Eastwood another property yesterday. Something down near Pebble Beach." Stephanie's stomach drops. She had no idea Clint was considering other options, or that Tom would be bold enough to step in so soon. "Thanks for letting me know," she says, trying to keep her voice steady. When she hangs up, frustration bubbles inside her. She knows Tom sees this as an opportunity to undermine her, to prove that she's not up to the task. But instead of letting anger consume her, Stephanie channels it into determination. If Tom wants to play dirty, fine. She'll rise above it. Stephanie spends the next few days in a state of quiet resolve, her mind racing with strategies to stay ahead of Tom Hastings. She knows he's playing a dangerous game, trying to poach Clint Eastwood right out from under her, but she refuses to let him win. This isn't just about closing a deal anymore, it's about proving to herself that she can handle adversity with grace and integrity. She decides to take a bold step, one that might seem risky but feels necessary. Instead of waiting for Clint to make the first move, she reaches out to him directly. Not with another sales pitch, but with a personal note. The letter is handwritten, a rarity in today's digital age, and carefully crafted. In it, Stephanie apologizes once more for her initial misjudgment, reiterates her commitment to finding him the perfect property, and includes a few thoughtful insights about how the scenic road home aligns with his lifestyle. She doesn't beg or plead. Instead, she lets her sincerity shine through every word. "Mr. Eastwood," she writes, "I understand if you're considering other options, and I respect your decision. But I hope you'll allow me one final opportunity to show you why I believe the scenic road property could be the right fit for you. It's not just about the house, it's about creating a space where life happens." She seals the envelope and sends it off, knowing full well that this could backfire. But deep down, she believes in the power of authenticity. If Clint values honesty and humility as much as she thinks he does, then maybe, just maybe, this will resonate with him. A week later, Stephanie receives an email from Clint's assistant. Her heart skips a beat as she opens it, half expecting rejection. Instead, she finds a brief message. "Mr. Eastwood would like to meet at the scenic road property again tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Please ensure all documentation is prepared for review." Relief floods through her, followed quickly by determination. This is it, the moment she's been working toward. The next morning arrives with a crispness that feels almost symbolic. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of eucalyptus and saltwater. Stephanie arrives early, ensuring everything is flawless. Fresh flowers adorn every surface, soft music plays in the background, and the infinity pool reflects the golden hues of the rising sun. When Clint arrives, he's accompanied by his assistant, a young woman with sharp eyes and a clipboard. Stephanie greets them warmly, her confidence bolstered by the knowledge that she's left nothing to chance. "Good morning, Mr. Eastwood," she says, extending her hand. "Thank you for giving me another chance." Clint nods, his expression calm but observant. "Let's get started." As they walk through the property, Stephanie focuses on delivering value, not just in terms of features, but in emotions. She points out the way the natural light floods the living room during sunrise, creating a serene atmosphere perfect for reflection. She highlights the privacy offered by the gated driveway, emphasizing how it shields residents from prying eyes. And when they reach the master suite, she pauses, letting the breathtaking view speak for itself. "This balcony overlooks the ocean," she says softly. "Imagine starting your day here, watching the waves roll in while sipping coffee. It's peaceful, grounding." Clint studies the space for a long moment before nodding slowly. "You're right. It is." By the end of the tour, there's a noticeable shift in his demeanor. He seems more relaxed, more engaged. When they sit down in the living room to review the paperwork, his assistant asks pointed questions, but Clint listens intently, occasionally interjecting with thoughtful observations. Finally, after what feels like hours, Clint leans back in his chair, his piercing blue eyes locking onto Stephanie's. "You've done good work, Miss Carter," he says, his tone firm but approving. "I'll take it." Stephanie's breath catches in her throat. For a moment, she's too stunned to respond. Then slowly, a smile spreads across her face. "Thank you, Mr. Eastwood. You won't regret this." Stephanie sits at her desk as the golden hour light streams through the large windows, casting a warm glow over Clint Eastwood's signed contract. It's not the $15 million deal that fills her with pride, it's the journey she took to get here. She thinks back to that fateful Tuesday morning when the man in the weathered leather jacket walked into her office, and how quick she had been to judge him. That moment feels like a lifetime ago now, a turning point that forced her to confront her flaws and grow into someone better. Her phone buzzes softly on the desk. It's a text from Henry Bell. Clint called personally to say how impressed he was. "Great work, Stephanie." A small smile tugs at the corners of her lips. Recognition from Henry feels validating, but it's Clint's approval that truly matters. Knowing she earned his trust, not through flashy tactics or empty promises, but through genuine effort and humility, means more than any commission check ever could. As the sun dips lower on the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and rose, Stephanie reflects on the ripple effects of her transformation. Her colleagues have noticed the change too. Gone is the sharp-edged agent who bulldozed her way through deals. In her place stands someone approachable, empathetic, and authentic. Clients leave her office feeling valued, respected, and understood. Even competitors like Tom Hastings seem less threatening now. His attempts to undermine her ultimately only strengthened her resolve. Later that evening, Stephanie helps a young couple find their first home, a modest house near the elementary school where they teach. Watching their joy reminds her why she loves this job. Success isn't about external markers like zeros on a paycheck or accolades on the wall. It's about making a difference in people's lives, helping them find homes where they can build memories, raise families, and create legacies. Driving home along scenic road, the ocean stretching endlessly beside her, Stephanie feels a sense of purpose that goes beyond closing deals. This is what her job is really about. Back at her cottage, she pours herself a glass of wine and settles onto the couch, staring out at the starlit ocean through the large picture window. For the first time in years, she feels at peace, with herself, with her career, and with the choices she's made. Good night, everyone.
And that's where our story ends. What did you think of this story? Share your emotions in the comments below. We'd love to know what you remember most. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. And if you are in the mood for another exciting story, check out our next video, it's waiting for you. Until then, stay curious, get inspired, and keep exploring the stories that make life extraordinary. See you in the next one.